Hi, this is JD Ingram. Welcome to my lesson on learning to read and play rhythms. This is going to be supplemental to my series for both pipers and drummers, focused on pipe band music. First off, let's start off talking about time signatures. The time signature is the fraction, the two numbers, that starts pretty much any piece of music. You would read a time signature the same way you would read a fraction. The fraction on the slide here is 4 over 4, or 4 quarters. You would say there are 4 quarter notes in the music that we're going to be talking about. In simple time signatures where the bottom number is 4, we'll use quarter notes as our primary indicator of the beat, where we're going to clap or tap our foot or listen to our metronome. And then the top number tells us how many of those beats we're going to have per measure or bar. And that kind of indicates how the music might feel or be organized or phrased, right? So some music like a waltz would be in 3, would be 3/4. But a lot of march tunes and honestly most of pop and rock and rap and country music is in either 2 or 4, 2/4 or 4/4. Next, we'll talk about the note values. We'll start with the notes that last 1 or more beats, with the biggest being the whole note. A whole note gets its name because it is one whole bar of common time, which is 4/4. 4 counts, 4 beats, a whole bar. So if you're going to play an instrument like the pipes, you're just going to hold a note. Any sort of instrument that has sustain, most woodwind instruments will go 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 beats. If you're playing a percussion instrument, drums, or honestly things, a lot of strings like guitar or piano, you will strike at the beginning, 1, and then continue to just wait for 2, 3, and 4 to pass you by. The half note is half of that. 2 counts, half of a bar of common time. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then the quarter note is a quarter of a bar of common time, or 1 beat. So let's look at trying to play a couple of these in context. I'll set my metronome, look at these lines, and I'll do a little bit of counting to guide, but I want you to try to play along or clap along or tap your fingers or clap your hands or whatever, and indicate what the rhythm's going to be. And then I'll go back through it a second time with you. So here we go. Here's our metronome playing at 60 beats a minute. And we'll go 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. On to the second line. 1, 2. Third line. 1, 2, 3. Fourth line. 1, 2, 3. And that's the end. All right. So here's how I will count it, and I will clap along with you. Let's try it again. 60 beats a minute. And now I will be clapping as well as recording the metronome. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 2, 4. 1. There we go. Did you get it right? Maybe go back and try to play through it again, clap through it again. Now let's talk about the note values for notes that subdivide a beat, that are 1 beat or shorter. So we'll start with the quarter note again, being 1 beat. That's the longest note that fits within a single beat. And then if we want to start subdividing the beats, we can go down to the 8th note, which is 1/8 of a bar of common time, or half of a beat. Then the 16th note, of course you can fit 16 16th notes in a full bar, but you can fit 4 within 1 beat. And we'll leave the subdivision there for now. You can go down to 32nd and 64th notes, but those are significantly less common to see. Here's some notes in context, quarters, 8ths, and 16ths. We'll try it out. Same way, I'll give you a 4-count count off and then record the metronome indicating where you should be, and then we'll try it together. So here we go, ready to play through. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second line, 1, 2, 3, 4. Third line, 1 and 2, 3, 4. Fourth line, 1, 2, 3, 4. And done. Here is written in how I would count it out. The subdivisions, you'll see if it's half of a beat or on the halfway point, it gets the syllable and, designated here by an ampersand. If it goes below that to the 16th notes, we go 1 E and a. So you'll see the syllables will always fall in the same place. You might skip the E and go 1 and a, or skip the and go 1 E and 2, or you might go 1 E and a, 2 E and a. So I will count that out, clap that out, and play along with the metronome. See if you can keep up. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1 and 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4, and 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and 1, and 2, and a 3, and 4. Ooh, that's getting busy. Good work. Once again, if you were having trouble with that, try playing it back. You can also use the playback speed option to slow it down a little. Now we're going to talk about dots and cuts. The primary rule here is the dot adds half of a note's value, or 50%, or multiplies by 1.5. You can think about it any different way you want to. I've written it out 3 different ways here, but it all means the same thing. If I have a half note, 1/2 of that half note's value is a quarter note. So if I tie those together, I get a dotted half note. A dotted half note is a half note plus half of a half note, which is a quarter note. It was 2 beats, now it's 3 beats. Same thing with a quarter note. If I had a quarter note and I add the dot, it's now 1.5 beats, 1.5 beats instead of 1 beat. And that leaves the remaining space, you can see there, to be filled up by only half of a beat, an eighth note in this case. You can also think about it as, what does it look like the next lower subdivision? So if I have 4/16 notes and I tie the first 2 together and the second 2 together, that would be played the same as 2/8 notes. If I have 4/16 notes and I tie 3 together, that's a dotted eighth note and leaves room for that 1/16 note to be remaining. The term dot and cut goes together a lot because cut is what it looks like you've done. If you go from the bottom 2 rows of pictures there, you have the 2/8 notes, and then you have a dot on the first eighth note, and then that extra little flag looks like you've cut the second eighth note. In reality, what you're doing is you're indicating that it's a 16th note. Let's try some dots and cuts. Here we go. I'll signal you to start, and let's take these one line at a time. So I'll count off each line individually this time. First line, starting with a 4 count. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And we're done. Now the second line. Prepare yourself. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's it for the second line. Now on to the third line. These are getting busy. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's it. Those are busy. I don't know if you guys kept up. I'll play it along with you. Here is how I would count it, and I will now count and play along. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, and 1, and 3, and 4. 1, a 2, and 3, a 4E. Starting the second line separate. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, a 3E and 4. 1E and a 2, a 3E and a 4N. 4E, I guess I should have said on that last one, but the rhythm was correct. Here comes the last line. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, a 2E, 3E, 4, a 1E and 2E and 3 and a 4, and 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4 and. Ooh, that's tough, but you're getting the feeling of the rhythm. Compound time signatures are up next. Time signature, of course, as a reminder, is the the fraction at the beginning of a piece of music that tells you how many of what kind of note we're looking at. So if you look at the 6/8 there, that would imply 6/8 notes. However, compound time signatures, where 8 is the bottom note, would technically imply that the 8th note gets the beat, but this usually means in musical notation that we're going to be having some abnormal groups of notes. So instead of 6/8 being 2/8 notes and then 2/8 notes and then 2/8 notes, which would be identical to writing a piece in 3/4 with straight eighth notes, what we would do is, you see how the first 3/8 notes are tied together there with the bar or the flag, and then the second group of 3. This is telling you that you're going to play 2 beats of triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Same thing for 9/8. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. 12/8 is written with 4 triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. There's also, more often in things like experimental jazz, less common in pipe band, which is my target audience, things like 7/8 or 13/8. And for consistency, those will typically show you what the important note groupings are. So that 7/8 down there would be 1 triplet, 2 and 3 and. The eighth notes would be at a constant tempo, and your beats would be of irregular size. 1 triplet, 2 and 3 and, 1 triplet, 2 and 3 and. It's not something you're going to see much of, but it's worth knowing academically how compound time signatures work. In compound time, note values remain unchanged in relation to each other. So a whole note is still 2 half notes, which is still 2 quarter notes, etc. The groupings of 3/8 notes being the beat will affect how you're going to read the beats though. So if 3/8 notes is a beat, then 1 dotted quarter note is a beat. 1 dotted half note is 2 beats. A dotted eighth note would technically still be half of a beat, but because compound time signature is a way for us to write a focus on triplets, you're probably not going to see 2 dotted eighth notes indicating 2 halves of a beat. It would be easier to just write it in a simple time signature if that was the emphasis of the music. Let's try out some clapping in compound time. This is all in 6/8. I'll again record 1 line at a time with a 4 count off. Try clapping along, and then I'll play with you. First up, by yourself. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's the first line. Second line. 1, 2, ready, go. And that's the second line. Here's the third line. Ready, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2. And that's it. Here's how I would count it. And let's try it together. I'll clap and count along. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2 triplet, 1 triplet, 2. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1, 2. Easy enough. Second one, I don't know if you caught it, but we got some curveballs. I did throw some dotted eighth notes in there, but they're offset by 16th notes so that you can still feel a kind of triplet pulse. This is very common in 6/8 marches. Let's try clapping it. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, a lit, 1, a lit, 2, a lit, 20, lit, 2, a lit, 1, 2. And the last one. This one has a curveball as well. You've got some subdivisions within the triplet. This is more common in snare music than it is in pipe or tenor or bass music, but could possibly happen. You would just count it the way it is. So here we go. Let's try it. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 triplet 2, let 1 triplet 2, let 1 triplet 2, triplet 1. I had trouble counting it out loud. But talking through it again, you've got an even triplet, 1 triplet, then a quarter note eighth note, 2, let, 1 triplet 2, let. Then you've got bar 3 has 1 triplet 2, triplet. That middle section is divided. Then the first and third sections are divided. 1 triplet a 2. Hard to say, but it does happen, and mostly in snare music, and so be prepared to clap or tap it. Now let's talk about tuplets. Tuplet is an umbrella term that I have heard used for any abnormal combination that has to be indicated by a number. So if you have simple time in 4/4 and you want a triplet just for 1 beat or 2 beats, you will put the 3 notes with a little bracket and the number 3 to say you're going to play these 3 notes as if they were in the time space that they would normally be taking up 2. So looking at the first example, right, you've got a half note and you've got 3 quarter notes bracketed with the number 3. Those 3 quarter notes would normally take up more than a half of a note. Normally you'd have 2 half notes left over in a bar of 4/4. But we crammed a third one in and took a little bit away from each, so that would be 1, 2, triplet 1. The second half you see a quarter note and then 3 eighth notes. Those would take up the same amount of time. 1 triplet. Then you've got your second line has the eighth note and the triplet 16th notes, which will take up the time of an eighth note. Triplets aren't the only options though. You can have force a 4-lit back into compound time when you would normally have 3 eighth notes. We can force a 4th one in there. So in that example of 9/8, I would play that 1E and a, just the same as you would as if it was 16th notes in normal simple time. And just to get even weirder on you, the last example is a 5-lit. You've got a whole note, and then you've got 5 quarter notes that would take the same space as a whole note. Those are fairly uncommon, but just know that they could exist. Okay, as with before, we'll try out playing some tuplets in context. I'll give you a count of 4, and again, we'll do each line separately. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. That's the first line. Here's the second line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. And here's the third line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 2. All right. Okay, here's how I would count it out. Let's set the metronome and I'll clap along. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 triplet 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4 triplet. That's the first line. Here's the second line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and triplet 2 and triplet 3 and 4 triplet and 1, 2 triplet 3 triplet 4. Here's the third line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 triplet, 2, let 1, 2 E and a 1, 2 triplet, 1 E and a 2, 1 triplet, let 2. That last one's an interesting one to talk about. So the first 2/3 of the beat have been subdivided into a triplet. This is something I've seen with roll patterns on snare, but not really anywhere else. The 3 notes of the triplet are going to occur very slightly faster than the second syllable lit, the last third of the first beat. It's difficult to get right, and honestly, probably best not to even think about what that means mathematically, but just be aware that that is something that could happen, and let's move on. Swing time. So swing time is a way that we kind of combine simple time and compound time. It may be indicated explicitly in some music, especially if you're playing in a band, a traditional band or orchestra. They would say, oh, this is to be played swung as opposed to even or straight. In a lot of folk music or swing music, a jazz band, it's kind of just implied. You know when something is swung. In bagpipe music, it's going to be almost always swung because it's a folk idiom. The main implication of what swing time is rather than subdividing our notes into 3/4 and 1/4, we're going to do it 2/3 and 1/3 of the beat. So within a beat, you're going to be looking at kind of a relaxed expression. This gives that kind of groove of swing tunes that you're looking for. If you look at the examples on the right-hand side of the screen here, a normal time, an eighth note is 2/16 notes, and a dotted eighth note would be 3/16 notes, right? So the first section would be 1 and 1 and then the dotted would be 1 E and 1 E and 1, right? The swing time, 1 and 1 and, it's normal, but instead of 1 E and 1, you would go 1, let 1, let 1, 1 triplet, 1 triplet, 1. Up to speed, this is what gives you things like In the Mood. Da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da. Right? That dum ba da ba da ba da ba da is the quintessential swing time. Let's try it out. As before, I'll give you a count off and we'll go line by line. Try clapping it out. If you need to play it slower or pause it first and work out what you're about to get yourself into, this is the time to do it. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the first line. Here's the second line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. That's the second line. Here's the third line. 1, 2, ready, go. Nicely done. Here's how I would count it out. Let's try it out. You may notice I'm tapping my fingers on the table this time because the second bar is a little quick. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2. So that was the first line. Here's the second line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and 2 E and 3, 4 E and. And the third line. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, That was it. Some notation shorthand for you. There's some things that confuse people in musical notation. One of the most common is, what does the bars versus flags mean? Well, it's the same thing. Flags are tied or barred together when there are multiple subdivided notes in a single subdivision. So if you have one beat that's subdivided into 2/8 notes, you'll see the two black note heads with the stems coming down and then one bar tying them together. If there was 3 or 4 or 5 notes all within a single beat, those would all be tied together with the appropriate number of markings on them. If there was only 1/8 note occurring in a single note subdivision, so if you had a dotted quarter note, as you can see on the page, followed by an 1/8 note, that 1/8 note is the only note within beat 2 that is occurring less speed faster than a quarter note. So the flag just is usually artistically curled up rather than tied together, because the flags being tied together or barred together indicates grouping within a beat. And remember, when we talked about that in common time, that's how you can tell what the emphasis of the beats were. The other thing to pay attention to is time signatures that are not a fraction. The most common two, in fact, the only two I know of, are common time, which is indicated by a C. Common time just means 4/4, because that's probably the most common time in music. And C with a cross through it, or a line through it, also known as the cent sign for some Americans, is cut time, which is 2/2, 2 half notes. 2 half notes we haven't talked about in this video yet, but that would be 2 beats per bar. A half note gets a beat. That's used a lot of times in very note-dense music, where the ink would just be so black on the page to have all of the extra bars that basically everything is taken up one subdivision. You're going to tap your foot on a half note. Quarter notes are going to be half of a beat. 1/8 notes are going to be a quarter of a beat, right? So on and so forth. And so rather than have to have 2 or 3 or 4 bars on a lot of these notes, you take one fewer bar off for the same duration. That's notation shorthand, and that is the last topic we're going to cover on this lesson. If you're a piper or a drummer, one of my students, or in my band, and I've sent you this video, thanks for watching all the way through. Brownie points. Let me know if you have any questions still. If you are not somebody who is one of my students or one of my bandmates and you just stumbled across this video, thanks for watching. Please feel free to comment below or message me and ask any questions or for any help. I am always ready to help spread the knowledge of music. So thanks for joining. Take care, guys.